Hi everyone and welcome to tonight's episode of Culture of Paint. We're going to be taking a look at what's caught our eye over the last few weeks in the miniatures painting world. For our main topic, we're going to discuss sort of getting derailed with hobby projects, barriers and things we can come up against, and perhaps a few different ways that we've come up with to try and get through those and get projects completed. And then we'll close out the show as normal, taking a look at what the paint cultists have been up to. A Culture of Paint's aimed at a mature audience, so we might use explicit language and discuss adult themes. Now let's talk about paint. And we are back, I think. Seeing you there, seeing the chat there. Lovely. And let's see if the slides show up this time. I think we've done the last couple where they've sort of come in slightly late on, haven't they? Right, let's get cracking. Not that I'm blaming you, Matt, or anything. You're wonderful. Sorry. Hi, everyone. It's Henry here, as usual. And joining me, as usual, are Andy, Matt, and Rich. Good evening, gents. How are we?
Good
stuff. Definitely not arguing about tech there. It's all good. Nice to see so many of you in the chat as well. We're having a natter about wanting Forge World to bring back busts, which would be pretty cool, and the 54mm models. Well, if you are looking, Elliot, for excellent 54mm models and busts, then Dayguard shipping soon, so they'll be in the shops.
Please don't buy any more. I can't pack any more. Don't buy anything.
Steve, Anders. Right, lovely to see you all. So let's crack on. It's been 3 weeks, I think, since the last show. Very sorry about that. I was rather under the weather last week, so we opted to delay by a week. We had that brilliant show last time with Mark on, so I hope you all enjoyed that. I know we did. We've been starting to put the feelers out, see who else we can get on to have a natter with about their influence on the hobby. But let's see what's been going on the various social medias and releases then. So what's up first, Matt?
So first up is this is yours, Rich.
Me. So yeah, this is my pick. It's been 3 weeks, so there's been a lot. There's been quite a few different bits that have caught my eye from various people. But this is one that I think yesterday was the first time I saw them. Kill Team is now live and kicking and with us. So there's been some fantastic work done from various people, specifically Henry's Commandos I really enjoyed as well. But this I really liked, just his style I love. He's one of my favourite painters. And I think for a Kill Team, it's really striking. I just love the colours he's used and the way he's applied them, to be honest. I think it's one of those things with the Kill Team stuff, we're going to see a hell of a lot of them. Like a lot of people getting into the idea of it. So seeing some that really caught my eye, I was, loving it. I think they're great.
The kit's fab as well. You can so pretty much all of them make 2 builds, and the heads are funny. They're I suppose they're a sort of like a ball and socket in that you've sort of got like an earthworm Jim nubbin on their torso, with an opening in, and then the heads fit around it. They're quite unusual, but they're not that hard to little tweaking, and you can sort of head swap. And I'm really hoping, because I know, Andy, you did the Krieger in the box, didn't you? And those heads are just like easy to swap in and out, right? If you wanted to kit bash and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really, really hoping we're now going to start seeing that more from GW kits. Like we went all the way from like Lego, didn't we, with the Space Marines with, stick them on in this bit to the you can only build these one way. Kind of hoping now we're gonna meet somewhere in the middle with it.
Really hard to get that balance, isn't it?
Oh, massively. But that Krieg kit, I mean, there's 3 or so builds, isn't there, for nearly every mini in it. So yeah, well impressed.
Right balance, like, and there's enough options that it doesn't matter if the poses are repeating. If you see, because I think. If there's enough options, then it's fine to do it that way. But you could probably do 3 squads, and it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very hard balance to strike, and overall the models are definitely way cooler now. But it's hard when they're so distinctive to see those repeats. Like I just built the Chaos Terminators, and one of my favorite kits to build. It was really easy. They're beautifully done. I've done 2 squads, and I don't think I could do 3 because they're too distinctive, and you can't do that much with them. So you're like, all right, like they're brilliant, but I feel limited to 10. So that's a tough one, isn't it?
But I guess for an elite, or at least in the background, I don't know what they're like in the actual game. At least in the background, sort of 10's probably about all you need, isn't it, for sort of distinctiveness?
Yeah. It's definitely fine, but it was my most recent observation. I sort of built my second unit, and I was like, that's brilliant. They're different enough, but 3 isn't possible. You know, it feels like there's a limit with some of the kits and things like that. And they're just, you know, like the lightning claws. There's only one set of lightning claws, and they're a very distinctive pose. And you couldn't do a whole unit of them. So everything's better, but there's limitations, right? And it's a trade-off, I think, for some of these really dynamic, cool kits. But the Kill Team ones, both of them are really good, I think.
Yeah. I'm really tempted by the Commandos just because it's the same sort of scheme to my AOS orcs, and I love painting that red and green. And I just keep looking at I didn't really like them, but I liked them when they came out. But I was never like, I really want to do them. I just thought, I'll never get around to doing those, but they're cool. But the more and more I see them, the more I'm like, there's only like 10 of them.
That's very appropriate for this week's topic, which we'll get.
I'd only just noticed. Yeah, sorry, Matt.
Doesn't the goblin in this kit? He has the snorkel face, doesn't he?
The grot.
Yeah, the grot.
Incredible.
That
Again, two
favourite.
options. You can have snorkel, scuba, grot, or you can have the other one. I built the other one. There's going around on the socials today was someone had done a little screenshot or photo of one of the little short story text boxes from the Kill Team book, and it's all about that little grot. It's pretty sad, man. It's pretty upsetting. But yeah, he's an amazing model, and again, I think he's three bits. Really obvious, and then obviously one of the grapple hooks is a separate bit because why not make him super easy to put together, and then you have to try and do this tiny little hook, but I mean we say it quite a lot, don't we, but the way they are engineering kits now, Games Workshop, it's bananas to put stuff together. But I feel it's definitely benefited models like these orcs, because if you think back to what we used to get when you got a largely sort of flesh on show type model, so whether that was a Chaos Marauder or an orc or whatever, they never really suited that stick the arms on, Lego style, did they?
Yeah.
And we saw it years ago when they re-released, or when they completely redid the ogre range for Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah.
And they did that slightly different sort of, I don't know how to describe it really, sort of dovetail almost joint for the shoulder and the arms. Yeah. To just to allow them to sort of, I guess, get delts that look vaguely like they'd work.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're seeing it now. Even when you look back at the some of the more recent Chaos kits, but then once they switched over to that style of, no, we're going to sculpt things slightly more restrictive, I guess is the word. I think it's ended up with much better looking models.
Yeah,
I think that's a whole episode there that we've.
I've already scribbled that down, mate. Yeah, I want to. Let's move on. That's definitely a future show. So what's nice choice, Rich? Basically picked your orcs painted by someone else.
Yeah,
your skin.
But better.
Love it. Right, what's up next, Matt? So I saw this a couple of weeks ago actually, and I immediately sort of saved it to use for pick, partly because I think it's really fitting with Krieg coming out. Still can't quite believe we've got plastic Krieg.
What a world to be in.
Yeah, it's bonkers, right? I really loved this Commissar model, this Severina Rain model when they brought it out. I actually ordered one, and the store I ordered it off messed the order up, so I was a little bit frustrated at that, but I love them anyway. It's not bitter. I will pick one up, but I just think what a great conversion. Like we talked a few shows ago about kit bash conversion type thing, and this looks like a model, right? This looks like an out of the box model, and that's when you've absolutely nailed it, isn't it?
Nice paint job too.
Lovely paint job. It's just, again, we talk sometimes, don't we, about if you were to introduce someone to a game, what model would you show them to sort of try and get them to understand it in a oneer? And I feel like you could show someone this and they'd get 40k.
Yeah.
It's
Future
sort of,
soldier, dystopian world. You get that way. Gas mask, recognizable things from the armor, but definitely futuristic. Bam, bam, bam.
It's
there, isn't it?
So yeah, that's and it's just reminded me. I really do want to try and hunt this model down and get hold of it. Partly because of one of the things we're going to talk about later.
Does that hat come with the gas mask face, or is that the actual Severine hat as well?
I didn't look that far into it because we had a
Commissar model.
I believe it is the Krieg Commissar head, I think.
But that's it.
Might be wrong, but I think it might be. But yeah, you're right, exactly. If you can't tell.
Someone tell us in the comments.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, though. But dropping that in with those plastic Kriegs. Oh.
Yeah, because it's definitely not a plastic Krieg head. Like the actual Krieg gas mask isn't the plastic one, it's the old one, the resin one.
Yeah, definitely. Because as I say, I saw this a few weeks ago before the box had was in the wild, as it were.
I mean, I was just up at Warhammer World yesterday, and I saw, you know, they got that huge Krieg diorama that's in there in the exhibition. I'm hoping that they redo something similar like that, but with the new stuff. I think that would be epic.
I remember talking to the manager up there that deals with all the displays and everything, and sort of how he said that all of those big dioramas is one person, like that's their job. Like they got like when they were creating the new exhibition hall, like everyone was like, right, Bob, you're going to do a Krieg diorama. It's got to fit in this space. Off you go.
Was it that chap Owen Patton for a while? He's a really good hobbyist. I think he did displays for a bit, and then he does designing. But he was fantastic. And
he's been there for a very long time, hasn't he? Forge World largely, I think, and then scenery. I think Owen Patton did the So Mortalis scenery. I think it was.
He did some great stuff. I remember it had something to do with the displays, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think he's a big treadhead. Are they?
Yeah, there's a job up for that role.
That'd be a pretty fun job, man. Not gonna lie.
Imagine how intimidated that would be. It's like, right, we want you to paint 350 Krieg. Like, oh fuck.
Better than 350 Slanesh Demonettes.
Yeah.
That's just white and wash, isn't it?
Yeah. That's it.
Spray it pink, bit of contrast.
And that's it.
Love it. Oh, the chat are loving it. They're talking about all sorts of things I don't understand. So might as well carry on. What's the next slide?
So the next two slides are kind of a joint pick for all of us because we all wanted to see this.
Here it is. Yeah.
Yep.
Quite good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all right.
We the show's being cancelled this last 18 months has sort of robbed people of getting to see these sorts of things.
This was an entry, right? And they basically got to a point where they've had it done for ages, and they were like, "The shows aren't happening." And I feel the same way, like keeping stuff. So they obviously it's going to the collector, I think. So they're just like, yeah, here it is. It's not going to be in a show. But yeah, amazing team effort.
So the sculptor was
Alejandro Munoz, who sculpts all the Cult of Paint miniatures, if you didn't know. He might be doing some for us now, and he's not bad. And actually, we got David to paint one of our box arts as well. So it's a combo we love, and you can see why in this mini. And GW, why aren't you making busts? Come on, let's go.
I used to.
They did.
Yeah.
I mean,
I want to see this in real life.
Sell, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I desperately want to see this in real life because I want to see what that looks like.
I hope he does bring it to some shows. And it was for a character, but yeah, hopefully we do. I'd love to see it in a GD cabinet just because.
Yeah, I mean it's just a very standout piece, isn't it? And also considering it's not, I think I still consider Age of Sigmar a relatively new sort of setting, even though it's 6 years old, something like that, 7 years old. But yeah, you know this piece would have caused a lot of chat, whatever show it had gone into, don't you?
Yeah.
I'd like it to have gone into GD and not placed, and then everyone went,
well, and then gone on like one Monty
SMC
and SMC and all the rest of it.
I think it would have placed in open category, wouldn't it? I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Possibly, yeah. I think the whole sort of 3D printing stuff is going to be interesting at that specific competition.
Especially with the gap we've had of competitions. It's like we've had 2 years off competitions, and how much 3D printing stuff has come on in 2 years. It's like, I feel like with everything in life, it's like a big old bookmark, and then we've skipped like a bunch of stuff, and what people can enter and will enter will be different. And I think there's going to be an adjustment period because, you know, how many people are going to have basically custom 3D printed stuff? And it's like, if you haven't bought it from another company, then you can enter it. If it's a product for sale, you can't enter it. And how do the judges know?
Yeah.
And how do they disqualify stuff? Because if there's some guy who's, you know, stealing IP and selling it, then that's not cool. But if a guy's got it sculpted and it's a one-off, that is cool in a competition. Gondium specifically, but how are they going to work that out, basically?
I mean, there used to be teams. Like, you used to be able to do team stuff. There was usually like one person would sculpt it, one person would paint it, but that sort of went away. But
that was before 3D sculpting, right? Because that would be a one-off that wouldn't be replicated. That would be like a handmade sculpt.
But I guess what Matt's saying is that it's still ultimately sculpted by someone else. So would that actually kill it dead before you even got to the fact that it was, you know,
that's fine. But I think, I don't know, I think with the way that 3D printing has progressed, stuff like this, while it will enter, I don't think stuff like this will ever place.
What do you think, because of like conscious bias?
I don't know.
No,
I agree.
Not from the judges. I think it'd be more of like a higher up decision.
Yeah.
Because, you know, 3D sculpted stuff has won in the past, but it's never gone in a White Dwarf magazine.
Right.
Yeah. Because I think it's too much of a discouragement, or not even a discouragement, an encouragement for people to potentially make their own thing. It's basically saying we're okay with you making your own.
But they are in the rules. They do say. My point is that this is obviously a 3D file, right? So apart from the fact that these guys know it's illegal, so they're not going to do it, but this can be printed by a million times, right? It's just a file on his computer at the moment. The only reason they're not doing that is because it's illegal. But what I'm saying is you could buy something from an online store that's a shop and enter it into GD, and they won't know if it's bought from an online store or it's a one-off, because one-offs are cool, multiple copies aren't cool. It's like they don't know. So that's why I'm thinking it must be tough for them, basically.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't want to be in
this seems like another. This seems like another episode we've just come up with on the spot.
It's a 3 weeks off. We want to chat. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Got stuff to say. Let's do another one.
Let us know in the chat if that is something you'd like us to get a bit more deep dive on for an episode. Sort of our experience of judging and of how comps go together, and then a little bit of, you know, conspiracy theory about how they just won't do it.
Out.
Yeah, get the tinfoil hats. 3D printed. Yeah, let's move on. But amazing. Yeah, I think at least two of us picked this for this week, and then I think the other two were like, oh well, obviously that's going up, so you know, it's a little extra.
We've got loads of extras because I was greedy.
Me too.
Next up is.
Yay!
Oh.
So that's all four of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Matt's getting the WhatsApps through.
Yeah.
I was pissed off about this. This is the first time ever I was Johnny on the spot with sending my pick over to Matt, and it wasn't a Space Marine or anything 40k. It was like a proper model. He already been picked.
Yeah, mate.
Well, we said, didn't we, that basically every time Lucas does a sculpt, it's the best. Like, and I love everything he does objectively, but like sometimes, you know, if it's a dwarf or something, then I'm not interested. But this one, yeah, this is amazing.
Can't wait.
I think this is his best one since the Witches, or possibly his best one since the American
Wise Woman.
Native American.
Yeah, Wise Woman. Yeah. Wise Woman's the peak for me.
This is my favourite one he's ever done.
I just love a goblin.
By
Goblins are great.
So if you went into my head and pulled out the definition of fantasy goblin and put it into a model, that's what the model would look like.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, right?
It goes on the
Perfect.
Yeah, 3rd of September.
Midnight?
Yeah, midnight, 3rd of September.
Oh, that's...
You got 2 days, 48 hours you can order it. And the
I'm
link
going to have to buy a few, and I
be in the description.
Yep.
That's the way Lucas sells his models.
Yep.
Go and support him because it's pretty special, you know.
Yeah.
To be around.
Is it weird that I just want like a massive piece of artwork of that, even just in that, not even painted, just like that?
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
You'd the sculpture and not paint it, wouldn't it? Like you'd have that on your shelf, not paint.
Oh, I wouldn't paint it because I would fuck it up. So
I think a lot of people
would have
do
that just as it is.
It's kind of. I think he wants people like. Obviously, he wants people to paint his miniatures, but everyone that buys it just I can't paint it. It's too nice to paint.
Yeah, exactly. I'd absolutely balls that up. That'd stay as is.
You got to buy two: one to paint and one to keep.
And one to ruin.
Yeah.
It's fair. It's absolutely fair.
But yeah, amazing work, as per usual. And still the only non-painter to have won whatever that Monty Award is, right? Like best in show thing.
Best of show, not a painted model, yeah.
So, great picks, everyone.
There's loads more. I haven't seen any of mine.
Yeah, we haven't got to Andy's yet. So next up is.
That's me. Have you seen this?
Is it?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I follow him, Liam. He's good.
I thought this conversion was fantastic. The helmet in particular is so cool. I also have to say I don't like salamanders until now. This is like the coolest salamander collection, I think. I'm like, yeah, this is really cool. But yeah, I love this account. Amazing marine conversions. As we've said before, we've seen so many marines, and this is yet another take. Amazing execution. So yeah, that's it. It's just brilliant. I thought you guys probably had all seen it, but I love it.
Looks great. That's presumably it's that special character, lad, isn't it? Vulcan
and Heston.
Heston, yeah.
Yeah, but the painting's amazing, converting's amazing. Sometimes you don't get both. Sometimes you get good converters, good painters, but both is a bit of a force, right?
If you're speaking about focus when it comes to a project, if you look at Liam's army, every model in his army is like this, and it's all got like custom like shin pads, custom helmets, custom pads. He's done it consistently throughout the whole thing. All he does is salamanders, and it's fucking amazing. Like the army does look great. Really, really good.
It's insane, isn't it?
Nice. Yeah. Well, as usual, all the accounts, everything we feature tonight will be down in the description, so you can go give them a follow. But you saying you've been greedy, and this isn't your only pick.
I put loads.
Unbelievable.
So we'll go next.
Hollywood.
Next up is.
We're having too long in between. Oh yeah, I forgot about this one. This is ridiculous.
Timothée, what's his name?
Chalamet.
That's it.
New June.
I don't know who it is, but it's
Timothée Chalamet.
June, yeah.
The face.
It's pretty funny. There's already stuff out for it.
Yeah.
And the movie hasn't dropped yet.
Well, the movie's been pushed
What's
back.
What's the
June.
movie?
June.
The new one.
Yeah, he's the new. What's the main character in June? I can't remember his name.
Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart was in the original June film. He was Gurney, wasn't he, in the original one? I think it was. But yeah, this is pretty cool, and this is just a great example, isn't it, of the I'm assuming 3D printed.
He's an insane sculptor, like insanely good.
So has this person sculpted and painted this?
No, who painted it, Matt? Do you remember?
I can find it now. I can't remember off the top of my head.
That's the sculptor's account. And so he's an amazing sculptor, and I can't remember who painted it off the top of my head, but the paint job's ridiculously good.
I was going to say the painting is not bad.
It's nice. It's quite subtle, isn't it?
Yeah, I love the skin. I think it's fantastic. And
a guy called John Chan is the painter.
John Chan. He is.
Oh, that rings a bell. Oh, is he the guy who paints really good faces?
He does the slightly big scale faces.
No,
like Brad Pitt from Fury and stuff.
Different guy. We featured him before because he did that soldier with the sunlight hitting him.
Right.
And it's like the first time someone's pulled it off. But John Chan, he's one of the best painters, I think. Doesn't really social much. I think he just basically posts on his personal Facebook, and that's about it.
No social accounts.
Cool.
I mean, yeah, if you go and look up any of Dune, the main character Paul in Dune, played by this Timothy guy, is that's really
shockingly bang on.
It's really good.
The face, the blends in the face, it has that
particularly around that area, right? The
facial expression.
I don't know if it was like intended, but like, do you ever some of the Da Vinci paintings have this like effect, like it's called like blurring, I think they call it, where it's kind of got a bit of that in it, which is really cool.
Yeah.
If you look at his other stuff, you can see it's like fully intended, because that guy's got absurd skill and he pulls off stuff that I've seen attempted and no one else has pulled off, like the sunlight going through the woods effect, ridiculous.
I enjoy how low key about it is as well. It just like does this hobby, puts it on his own Facebook, and like that's it.
Yeah, it's like whatever.
No biggie, man.
Should we do my last pick, Matt?
Yeah.
Fucking hell, how many have you got?
Last one.
In 3 weeks, he got 3 picks. Tough. It took too long. Oh yeah, because I saw this. This is just cool. Will's doing some really cool stuff. I had him on here before, and I just saw this and thought this had to go on because it's just brilliant. Color, light, it's pretty amazing, really, isn't it? Presentation overall.
Yeah. That marble is bonkers.
Yeah, proper marble, like no nonsense marble that we've seen way too much of. Very nice.
And this was that mini done on Art of Brom, right?
Yeah.
Based off Art of Brom.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few versions, and I think this is easily my favourite. Even the blood on the bottom of the pillar is super cool. Yeah, love it. Love everything about that.
The red cloak is just super stark against that black background.
Everything's just great, isn't it? It's just I think we'll have that on the miniatures is art chat whenever we do that.
Yeah, because it looks like a painting to me.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, skills to pay the bills.
Very cool.
Yeah, there's my quick picks.
Let's see, chat are loving it. Someone's saying that keen to get their first bust. Well, you've never picked a better time. There's this amazing one coming out nearly every week at the minute.
Yeah.
Still on there. Oh, the Aussies are here. Hi, Adam. Waking up? Yeah, waking up. Very nice. Have we got any more picks, Matt?
No, that was it.
That's
it.
Well, I think those are pretty good picks. It's obviously been an excellent couple of weeks.
Really has, actually.
Would we have been due any comps in the last couple of weeks if things were normal?
No, but we're just about to come up to comp season,
right?
Because we're like a month away from SMC Monty double, which is and then you have the break for the GD double. So it's kind of like
potentially SMC is still happening. That they haven't said it's off yet.
They have.
Yeah, they have. Well, we got an email through because we were meant to be at it. So if it is happening, we're not there.
That's a shame. So yeah,
it'll be there. Kerim is asking in the chat, "What's our favourite airbrush?" Well, that would be our signature airbrush.
Show it off.
By
product placement
by Harder and Steenbeck. Yeah, someone's got to have one on them.
It's black, so it's
there you go. Beautiful.
That's our favourite airbrush. And if you want to know why, we've done a billion videos about it, or at least 3. Cool. Let's get on to the. I don't think we've got a meme of the week, so let's get straight on to the main topic.
Oh.
And
we got to organise it.
Well, you've had 3 weeks. You're too busy
That's the meme.
picking pretty pictures.
It was the Marlowe meme, which is all about this topic, which would have been perfect.
Well, what a shame that didn't make it.
I should. Yeah, that's gonna definitely get in brought out quite a few times, I think. So don't worry.
I was gonna say this is gonna be another one of those fucking topics where I just get bagged on for an hour.
It could be, Rich. I'm not gonna lie. It could.
Yeah,
be.
but you're so funny.
So what is this topic that we're going on about? So I think it's a discussion a lot of us have with mates, with online groups, or all the rest of it. But this constant struggle of trying to marry up all the things you want to do and get painted and all of that, and all the things you actually manage to get painted and completed and done, or sculpted, or whatever it is you want to do within the hobby. And we actually felt there may well be a show within it, and we can talk about sort of the things that us four often come up against. I threw the question out to the Patreons earlier. They fired back with a ton. And then also, so it's not just horribly depressing, we'll sort of go through ways we think we can get over some of those humps and rescue the odd project before it goes in the stripping pile or on eBay or wherever, or in the bin. For this one, we decided to do very little prep, in the sense of we don't really know what each other's going to come up with. So I thought it might be a bit more interesting to see if there was a common one. But having asked the patrons about it, I've got about 8 or 9 answers, and they're all different. So yeah, I think this could be quite interesting. So I'm going to throw you under the bus straight away, Rich. What is something that regularly, would you say you often get derailed from a project?
Just move the camera, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, if you could pan sort of that way a bit, then yeah. So considering my nickname is the Hobby Butterfly,
the Rick,
yeah,
I think Ben calls it.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that I get distracted in moments of
daylight.
I don't know, minutes a day, yeah. If I'm in, a random blast of inspiration will pop up for an idea, and it's the only thing that I can think about when it comes to hobby, and all I want to do is get on with it and do that, and nothing will stop me really from doing that bit until it's done, and then the next hobby idea will pop up, and then I'll do that as well. So yeah, I get distracted by just about fucking everything.
Well, think of this like your intervention then, Rich, this year.
Yeah, pretty much.
We'll just go through all of the things that derail you. Well, one that's come up, and I know a couple of the patrons mentioned it, and I think, Andy, you've mentioned this, is just the almost seemingly endless, every week there's something amazing new coming out.
Mate.
It's horrible. It's actually horrible. It's honestly... What do we? Well, I mean, it was Dominion, wasn't it? And everyone's painting that. And then there's Kill Team, and you're like, cool. Well, I haven't even built my Dominion set, so let's get this Kill Team set. It's just too much.
And is that? Are you finding that because obviously it sounds very sort of first world problem, but what particularly about that is it that causes the problem for you? Is it that you really thrive off sort of buzz and not been done yet and that kind of thing?
Me talking.
Yeah.
I think it's like you can start something that's cool, and then something new comes out, and the old thing's still cool, but you might want to do that new thing more. And it's happened to me recently, which has really annoyed me, because I've been like, started doing Sisters of Battle, and I was like, this is great for me. I've come up with a quick scheme. It's brilliant. I love Sisters of Battle. Finally, I'm getting around to them. And then you get Plastic Deathcore Creed, and it's like, they're better than these. And it's just, I think it's really hard when you're an adult I think for a lot of people, they can probably afford most things that come out. I think a lot of people are lucky to be in that position, and you just do, don't you? So. I mean, I've airbrushed and base coated my Krieg. I'm doing something different now because something new come along, right? It's just like, Yeah, it's really tough. It's lovely how many cool things are coming out, but I think it's only natural to want to do new stuff because it takes months to do an army, right? And how are you supposed? It's very hard to stick to that army for an entire 6 months. Like, can you imagine not buying anything new from GW for a year? Like, it would just be hard, wouldn't it? Like doing the same color scheme over and over again. It's just hard.
I think it's testament to the quality and quantity of new releases that, like, we've been painting for years now, Andy, and you've always been so good at, like, no, I'm doing this and that's what I'm doing. And like the amount, like, even in the last like couple of months, you've been and ahhing about a few different projects. I'm just like, welcome to my world.
I think it's armies though, because like I think
it's such an investment.
I don't have a 40k army, so that's something I want because I've got an Age of Sigma army, so I want a 40k army, and I think that's the difficulty because I paint one thing and I'm like, this is brilliant, this is the army I want. And then repeating that loads of times.
So you mean by like you'll paint one model from that army?
Yeah.
And then you'll want to do the army?
Well, I've done it 3 times in a row, which is what. So I did System of Battle tutorial for Patreon, and it was so quick and easy. I was like, this is the right army for me because this is the gold metallic, Order of the Golden Light. I was like, this is the easiest color scheme I've ever come up with. This has got to be my army. Started working on 20 Sisters, did all the worst bit, like the gold, the black, and then that's it. And then Plastic Krieg come out. Did a Krieg for a tutorial, started working on 10, airbrushed, transfers. They're in the same box as the Dead Sisters. And and now I'm doing Sons of Horus, and did Malagurst, and I was like, I love this scheme. And then I've done a Contemptor. And I can't do it again. That's enough now. Like, I have to complete a project. It's driving me nuts. So I just
why does it drive you nuts though? Like, what is it about it that stresses you out?
Because the amount of time I've put into Sisters and Krieg, if I'd done that in one project, I'd have an army. But what I have is 4
bits of an army.
I've got built models that have cost me a lot of money. I haven't finished them and I can't use them for a game. And I have spent the amount of money and time needed for an army, yet I don't have an army. So I can't actually do the end goal, which is to roll a dice. So
yeah. That's the bit that bugs me about it, is if you did it once, like you put in a photo in one of our WhatsApp groups where it was a guy who painted like 25,000 points of orcs or something. And you just put, this would be Rich's army if he could stick to anything.
Yeah.
Because I can get things done like pretty quickly when I want to. But that I think for me is one of my problems, is I can do things quite quickly. So I go, oh, fuck it. It'll only be like one of my days off this week. I'll quickly smash out this model or whatever. And I go, oh, that's really cool. I'll do a few of them. And then I do a few of them. And then I get a new project. And if I could put all of these masses and masses of models that you can't see on my left-hand side, and they would go all from the same army, it would be the biggest, coolest looking army ever, but it's just not.
I think that, like, if you like, for me, if I paint a model, it just looks cool kind of regardless. And I think that's for everyone, because like, if you've done it, it's really nice feeling because, you know, you've it's something you've achieved, it looks cool, and you can always imagine more. So like, I did one gold sister and I loved how it looked and I just wanted 60 of them. So I think whenever we paint like one model, we're probably likely to be like happy with it, proud of it, or imagine more of it. And then your mind wanders of going down that road of having an army, but actually got to resist sometimes because it's really hard. So
it's like scratching the itch, isn't it? If you can produce something that you're happy with, proud of, and you enjoy it, enjoy looking at it, you enjoy the process, I think to a degree, if you want to play games, there's a degree of telling yourself that that's enough. Like, you might have a little bit more in the tank, but telling yourself that that's enough. Or for me, refocusing that energy into a current project. So like when we saw the little hints about the Black Templars coming out, I love a Black Templar. I straight away went into, oh my God, that'd be amazing. What's a really cool recipe for really simple but really quick black armor? And I did a Black Templar in like a couple of days, just in the evenings. And I loved it, and it was amazing. And then I was like, right, I'll do another one. And then I was like, well, I've got a Blood Angels army. I can do Death Company. It's the same black color scheme. So I basically rejigged my energy into painting like a quick black armor into, right, cool, I'll just do a new squad of 5 Death Company.
I like that, mate. That's there we go. There's tip number 1. That definitely resonates with me. 100%. If you do a one-off that doesn't go anywhere, but you bloody love the scheme, use the scheme somewhere, right? Then at least that's not time wasted. And I'm not saying that painting one model is time wasted. I'm not saying that not finishing a model is necessarily time wasted. I'm going to try and be very fence city for most of this
that was my
discussion.
Point, is you need to just compartmentalize. I'm doing this as one model. So like for me, it's like I did the Creed tutorial for Cole, and I'm so happy with that came out. I was like, yeah, I want like 50 of these. Have to stop. Or that would be fine to start that if I hadn't failed 3 armies prior. So that's the problem, right? But what I'm scared of is, what if Eldar come out? You know, then I'm screwed, absolutely screwed. So like, I got so annoyed at this that this week's stream is chaos, and I just can't fail on this. Like, I have to do it. It's the coolest one I've started. And I've been quite nice and strategic that I'm doing a Baden, which is a different colour scheme, so it's good old noggin. And then I've got 30 Marines to do. And that's if I can do the 30 Marines, I'll be absolutely fine with all the other projects I've stopped. I just need to finish 140k army, because then it doesn't matter if I do a bit of Krieg, a bit of Sisters, because I have the ability to play a game, and then I'll be less annoyed at myself. But just Eldar, please don't come out in the next months. Just give me a couple months so I can do some minors, please.
All right. So there's quite a lot. There's quite a lot I want to pick up on just in that little. Hopefully this is cathartic for you guys as well. It's just good to get it off you, get it off your chest.
Got a lot on my chest about this.
Yeah, it seems at the minute, or it seems we started off talking predominantly about army painting here. Yeah. So I think a few things I want to look at with that is and it's reminded me of it. Martin in the chat obviously he's just spent 14 months painting almost nothing but his Lumineth army. And he's admitted one of the things that helps is that he's not a hobby butterfly. You know, I've always been jealous. I've said it before. I've been jealous of those people that are just obsessed with one army.
Monoga hobbyists,
you know, because again, that's the way. But I wonder if is there a middle ground in that? Is there an army that, just off the top of your heads now, do you think there's certain armies that perhaps are better suited for people that do struggle with the monotony? So you know, Marines is a good example. We always talk about how good Marines are to paint, blah 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 blah. But actually, there's not a huge variety if you're painting a Marine army. Now, thankfully, there's not usually that many models, but I don't really know 40k nowadays, but you know, 30k, there still is a lot of Marines you've got to paint. Generally going to be painting the same thing again and again and again. So if you're not into batch painting, you know, and you're not into being realistic about your army painting, it's not going to work for you. But are there certain armies you think, so you mentioned it there, Andy, with the fact that Abaddon is, or Abaddon, or however it's being said now, you've got a completely different scheme to be able to use within that army. You know, so I'm just thinking, you know, orcs, you can generally paint orcs in a very different way. And I'm thinking of this, if this is my long-term obsessive project, as me right now, not as a better version of me, as the me that struggles the same as you guys do with all this, where's that army that's going to allow me to just continually add to it? Spoiler, I don't think there is one for me, because I want endpoints. I don't want if I'm painting an army, I want it done in a month or two. And a lot of that reason is because I want consistency in the army. We talk about that a lot, right? I don't want to spend like Martin has. If I spend over a year just painting one army, I would hope that I would be significantly better by the end of that.
Yeah.
And I don't want my models at the end of that to look significantly better than the models at the start of it. And equally, I don't necessarily, and I've done this recently, I don't necessarily want to have to dumb down my painting if I feel I'm in a place where I can move on.
Yeah.
It's definitely a personal thing, isn't it? Right? Like, we've all got different hobby goals. And I think depending on your personality type and crossed with your hobby goals, it's going to be way easier for others. Like, I like Age of Sigmar, 40k, Heresy, all the little games. I like them all. Some people like only Heresy and only one Legion. So it's easy because they just chip away at that. So yeah, there's definitely like a different thing. And also, if you're like, I don't just do painting comps and I don't just do games. Like, I think I like so much, and variety is really cool. But at the same time, it's quite crippling because I'm like, really want a 40k army. But I also really want to start some Golden Demon projects, and that's what's hard for the old head. So I definitely think that some people probably aren't at risk of this just because of their personality types. And then maybe for those like myself and Rich, that we need some ways of getting discipline. I think me and Rich spoke before, actually, when he was doing a bit of butterflying, that maybe he should do a Chaos Army of the 4 gods, so he could do 500 points with 4 color schemes, which would be fluffy, look cool, and help with the variety. But I don't think it's actually the variety that I want. It's the fact that you just think of something else. Like, say it takes, for me, I reckon an army doing it quickly, 6 months, right? But how many ideas do you get in that time? And then how many new products come out and get released? And it's tough. So,
well, and also an army as a creative idea is that's a big goal. That's a lot of work before you're going to see that idea realized. It's not one model. It's not, I really want to paint a whatever Custodes, and actually, I don't have to paint him I can paint him to display standard, not necessarily competition standard, and I can be happy and it's done and it's on the shelf, and that scratched that itch, right? It doesn't have to go any further. But you're setting out where you're saying my goal is to create this amazing looking army. And this is why I say I think for me 6 months is too much. I got that 1,000 points of Cruel Boys done within the first month. That was the goal. I was like, if I can get them to that, then great. I will let myself do another 1,000, and that's it. Then I've got an army I can game with. Fantastic. I'm staring at a minimum now of 4 weeks between where I finished the last model from that and when the new models are going to come out. And ideally, I'd have wanted the project done in that time. It's tough, right? That and as you're saying, 6 months, you're going to come up with so many other great ideas, and you're going to want to see them come to fruition.
Well, I spent 2 years on my Ultramarines, but I've got a different mindset now. But like at the time, I loved that army. I wanted to do Heresy, and I was just good then. But something is different now, and definitely my personal situation is because we do Patreon and YouTube, which I love doing and I want to do, but it's just a matter of fact that I actually can't just paint my army. I have to do, because who's going to want to watch me doing Lumineth Spearman every week? I've done the Lumineth tutorial, right? So now I can't really paint Lumineth until after I've done this week's tutorial. And there's a kind of a catch-22 to that, because if I start a project like for Patreon, then I have to stick to it, which is fantastic, because that generally, if I do like a character or something, it always gets done because every week I put that out. So that's really cool, because I finish every project I start for Patreon. But armies are hard because once I've done that tutorial, it's difficult to come back to it. So I did my Sister of Battle tutorial, so can't really paint some more of those, and so that's the thing I'm trying to find. But I'm hoping that this Chaos project is the one. So,
well, I think someone had the answer in the chat, Alan. Custodes, 10 models in an army. That's a great point, Alan. But unfortunately, just 3 comments later, you've been shot down by Blue Shadow Dragon, who has been working on his Custodes army since his mate stag do years ago. So
I actually did a Custodes army and found it so unenjoyable to play with that I sold it. So
all right, but you got it. So, but what got it done? So let's look at so whilst we're sticking to army painting at the minute, you're struggling with project at the minute. What are some army painting products? So let's think about your Sylvaneth for your AOS, which you did, and your Custodes, which you did. What got them done?
Color scheme and volume of models, and difficulty of color scheme as well. But the Custodes were black, so I rattle canned them black, and then I whacked some highlights on them, and then they were metallics, so they were very, very fast, without a compromise in a look, because black, purple, and gold's a fantastic color scheme. Whereas, I couldn't do Lumineth in black. I mean, I could, but they've just got to be a light color for me, and that's So color scheme's definitely a thing.
I think also when we were doing Heresy, when you were doing your Custodes, like in the last couple of years, we've branched out as to what we actually want to do on models a lot more. Because back then, all we did was Heresy. We weren't interested in AOS. We weren't interested in 40k. Nothing else. The only thing that we looked at from a gaming perspective was Heresy. So I think it was a bit easy, and also Heresy being quite a finite space in that you can pick Space Marines that are a slightly different color, or you can pick Custodes, or I think sometimes barriers or little borders to stuff make things easier.
I agree. Yeah.
For someone like me, if I've got all the choice and all the options in the world, my stupid brain will run with all of them and want to do all of them. Whereas someone says, well, actually, no, you've got this choice of however many legions there are, 18 or whatever it is. They have to be one of those colors. Pick one.
Yeah.
Because it helps you. It takes away my option to go mad and paint, tons and tons of different things.
Yeah, I think I don't actually like that many armies. Like, there's a few, right? But AOS, we all know it's a meme that there's only one army for me in AOS, different form of elf. But if you're talking armies, every army takes a long time for me. That is just, no matter what you choose, it takes a while, right? So I think that's the problem.
I think for me, my Blood Angels army that I've done, one of the appeals for it was, one, I love Blood Angels. I love the fluff. I love the story. I love the background. But it was the mix of colours, like we spoke about. So, I've got my candy red, regular Marines and vehicles, but then I've also got Death Company, which are black, which is more fun to paint for me as well. And if I want to make them maybe a little bit better than some of the other units, I think it's a bit easier with black. And then also gold if I ever want to do any of the Sanguinary Guard and that kind of thing. So that's how I would keep interested in my Blood Angels. I did to start with, I did 25 Marines, all candy red, and it was a nightmare. So I was like, right, I'll do a Redemptor Dread as a Death Company one, so it's black, so it feels different. And then switching back and forth between them. And that was successful because I got it to 1,000 points. And happy with it. But then go on.
Do you think you have to adjust your plan depending on who you are? So for you need to pick an army with a variety of colours.
100%.
And then some people might need to pick an elite army for volume of models.
Yes.
And then other people might need to do ease of scheme. For example, Henry, you said Marines might not be for everyone because it's the same thing over and over. And for one person's personality type, that's going to be better. And then for someone else, it's actually, that's against them. So I think you do have to probably find a strategy for keeping focus, and it's going to be different for you. And what I think one of the most important things to help to try and be a bit more positive about this is the hobby group you have around you. And I know that myself and Rich recently actually played a game, not in a house for the first time since, whatever that thing was people used to get. And And that totally changed my kind of mindset, because I needed a reminder of why we bother doing armies, because I forgot. I was like, yeah, gaming's all right, isn't it? No, actually, it is fun. And I think that's important. You need little things to keep you going and find some motivation somehow, right? Like I need to be reminded that gaming's worth it, because for me, doing an army is really hard. It's hard to stick to. It's hard to spend the hours on it. So you do need a reminder, and I think that can come from the hobbyists you surround yourself in, and being with some positive hobbyists, I think.
Absolutely, mate. I've got scribbled down here. One of the things to ask is what regardless of the project, whether it's an army project, whether it's you're never going to game ever, but you still want to paint an army. I think there's a lot of people in those positions because you just like it. And whether you're painting for a competition, is why are you doing it? What is your reason for doing it? And I think that's sort of coupled into that, something Rich was saying about we're bombarded with ideas right now, and it's all the internet. And I get that the internet's fab and it's given us a platform and it's given us a living, with what we're doing in the hobby. But the time was you get inspiration from the White Dwarf you got once a month, the novel that you were reading, not listening to, the maybe the one painting show you got to go to a year, or the Games Workshop or your local gaming club that you would go down to. And the chances are that you would only have a small sphere of a small hobby sphere, right? And generally you were going to gravitate to like-minded people. And obviously when that gets too much, you end up with echo chambers, and it's not such a healthy thing. But when it's a relatively small number, it's only a positive, right? And I found, as someone who does this for work as well as their hobby and feels a responsibility to discuss certain things or help people achieve, hobby enjoyment and things with our work and all the rest of it, it is getting pretty full on out there now. With all the various media and the various factionalism and comments both ways, positivity and negativity. That for me, the only way I've been able to keep myself involved in the hobby personally, not from a work point of view, is to shrink that group way back down, and actually really only care about a handful of people's opinions. And that's because those are the people that make me feel good. What's going on in the hobby?
Yeah.
And I think that's that key, isn't it? Is take a break if you need to. There's nothing wrong with that. Take a break and come back. But is why are you doing it? If you're doing it because you want 10,000 followers on Instagram, well, you're going to have to suck it up, aren't you? You're going to have to bring the discipline in, and you're going to have to paint. You're going to have to paint, and you're going to have to post, and you're going to have to do it regularly. But that's your goal, right? If that is your goal, but at least go into it with your eyes open, right? But I think there's that other side of that doesn't have to be the norm, does it? It's still 100% okay to just paint and share it with a couple of mates.
Yeah. That's where
and generally they're all going to tell you it's nice and fun. If that's what you want, great. And if you want a bit more constructive criticism, then you find that group too. But maybe that group of people aren't the ones you go to talk about the 14th great idea you've had that day for a different Space Marine army or whatever.
This week's theme.
This week's theme.
Yeah, right.
All right.
So that's how I'm dealing with it anyway, personally. And I'm getting shit done. There's no two ways about it. It's been a successful sort of 12 months for me from a hobby point of view. One of the ways I'm keeping that is holding myself accountable to certain people that I care about their opinion. But it's, as you said a minute ago, Andy, it's games are fun, right? And actually, if I am going to army paint, then I want it to be with a view to playing with the army. Whereas in the past, I was much more, Heresy was what I loved. I played a handful of Heresy games a year. I didn't care about the game at all, right? But what I cared about was hanging out with my mates drinking some beers or whatever. But I wanted armies. I wanted armies on my shelf to enjoy. I wanted armies to work on because I would read the novels. I would, get excited about it. All I would talk about, on Facebook or Twitter or wherever, all the groups I was in was heresy, heresy, heresy. I just wanted to be completely immersed in it.
It's nice to be immersed.
It is absolutely, but it changes, doesn't it? Yeah. Those sort of goals change. And for me now, the only army painting I want to be doing on a traditional army, let's say, so your typical bolt action 40k fantasy Flames of War, whatever, that sort of size of army I'm on about. The only way I think they're getting done for me now is if it's for gaming. And that's influenced. If anything, that's helped me because I'm not like you in the sense of I think I like every army out there. I genuinely think I'd be happy doing any of them forever, and that really doesn't help, right? It's not so much butterflying that it causes. It's just that there really isn't that one that's far enough ahead to shove me towards it. And I need that sort of initial shove. And it's why I quite like these sort of communal projects that you can have with a hobby group. So there's a few of us at the minute that are talking about doing a Badab project, and the nice thing there is everyone picks a chapter and does it, and actually
everyone's doing that at the moment, mate.
You've got to pick it, right? You can't some of that choice is took away from you.
Yeah.
Which I think before, if you're playing AOS with a couple of mates, you might say, right, well, Bob's doing order, so I really ought to do chaos, death, or destruction.
Agree,
and that kind of thing. And again, I think that just goes back to that bringing it down. It's sort of why you're doing it. And if you're doing it for the likes, well, just go and find the most popular army and paint the shit out of it.
I think.
I was just going to say, do you think another aspect of sort of this is, especially in the last 18 months, there's been no deadlines to work to, like there's no hard date set in stone for events or gaming events or whatever event that you're sort of going to for these painting projects, that you kind of just procrastinate them. Or at least I think that's how I find anyway.
Yeah.
Without
deadlines. I mean, that was something that came up quite a lot from the patrons. I think when we've chatted, right, and exactly as you're saying, whether it's Golden Demon or whether it's a gaming weekend, because no one wants to be that person after 18 months of lockdown, you're playing your first game after that with unpainted models, right?
Illegal. It's illegal.
And I mean, I'm imagining most people watching this won't be like that anyway, because you're nerdy about painting. But but I bet it's happened. Like I imagine lots of people went into bit of furlough, bit of lockdown. Right, I'm going to get 40 armies painted during this, and then tournament. Right, book my ticket. Night before, you'll still be painting the bases, right?
Yeah.
In the lockdown was actually a bit of benefit for me because I was furloughed at the start of it. So when I was furloughed, I did have the time, and I remember looking through all my armies and think ideas and stuff. And one thing for me that I think is important is breaking the back of it. So if you're looking at an idea for an army, and I was looking at Blood Angels, like, right, I need a good couple of squads of just Marines that'll be the backbone of this army that I can then add to. So for me, that was the first goal, because if you're going to start a project and you paint the cool, shiny new stuff first, and then you've got to paint 40 grots or 40 skeletons or whatever, that's the bit that's going to get shit after a while, regardless of how good the miniatures are.
Find that army where you love the basic bitch troop.
Yeah. So whatever it is, that element, that basic element that you need a lot of, or that you need to do first, for me, that's the bit to kind of do, because once you've got through that, I think it feels a bit real. Because like in my head, when I think of an army, I think of an old school army that's got a couple of troops choices, a couple of elites, maybe one or two heavies, and a couple of characters. But the core of it was always two nice big groups of troops and a HQ. So if I'm doing an army and I do that first, for me, it already feels like an army that I'm then just adding to. So I've got the army, very, very small army, but that's the army then I want to add to it. So for me, that's like that helps keep it on track a bit.
All right. So I'll challenge you on that, because I agree with you 100%, right?
Yeah.
But I'll challenge you on that. So you have got your Blood Angels done. You've got that. That's been done in the last couple of years. You've got them up to 1,000 points. Probably could easily have been 2,000 points with a couple of less butterfly moments, right?
Probably, yeah.
So if you're saying that that's how you work on an army, that's what helps you succeed, and all the rest of it, being super critical.
Yeah.
Could you look back on the last 2 years and say, actually, I haven't succeeded? I've got my Blood Angels to 1k. I've got my Iron Jaws to 1k or whatever. Is that a time where actually now you go, fuck it, maybe on my next army I'll do the opposite and I'll paint the 4 character models, the big monster centerpiece, the whatever? I wonder, and I'm thinking about this now for me, like on my next project, would that actually mean that? And one of my biggest issues is when I get close to the end of anything, like a paint job, a project, whatever, I'm inclined to rush it. Right, that's when the boredom really hits in. And that's the last thing you want if the final things to paint for it are the centerpiece models. Would it maybe be better where if that bit of boredom and that, oh fuck it, right, I really need this finished for this event, I've only got to paint 10 tactical marines, fine.
I mean, that's
so for me,
my intention.
See, I've tried that before, or I've done something similar, but for me, it can help to reignite like the fatigue of painting. So, for instance, my Iron Jaws, for example, worst idea for an army I've ever had in my entire life. I'm going to do a non-metallic metal weaponed army. I've got 4 edge highlights on every fucking bit of model that there is. I mean, I'm really happy with the little army. It's the best army I've ever done, and probably the best army I ever will do. I started it 3 years ago, and it's just got to 1,000 points. Like, because I picked it up and put it down, because it takes me, I don't know, 2 weeks to paint a brute. That's why it's taken me so long. It's horrible. But after playing one game with it, I then went, oh fuck, that was actually really good fun, because of the way it plays is really stupid. You run across the board and punch people in the face, and it's really funny. But since then I've gone, right, actually I want to do a bit more. So I've done a couple of little bits of scenery for me that edged on a bit more. And then after painting the basic troops, I treated myself and I built a new war boss from the Gordrak model. I put him on a base rather than on the dragon, and I want to paint that model so badly now. So I think for me, doing the basic stuff first, then doing the exciting stuff, it depends, it can change, I think, but for me, I found with that project it really did reignite the passion for it, because then I get to paint a cool model, and I'm so experienced at painting the color scheme now, I know it'll look amazing because I'm so just used to it. But I do get what you're saying, like get all the cool stuff first, because then it will ignite the passion for it early.
That's it. Maybe it just keeps it. Maybe it keeps. I don't know if it's right. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, I do the same thing though. I rush when I see the end coming. I'm like, oh, I can paint something else now, guilt free. I'll get this. I'll absolutely smash this last whatever it is out, and then I can guilt free do something else. But I don't necessarily which one's answer. I've done multiple armies in multiple ways. I've got my undead army, and I was like, right, I need loads of skeletons. What's the quickest humanly possible way I can paint these? I'll paint them glowing green. Wicked. I'll paint 70 skeletons in one go, which is what I did. I was like, wicked. Now I just have to paint the fun stuff, and it worked. I've got a 1,700 point or whatever it is undead army. But even that now, looking back, and this is something we speak to our friend Ben a lot, because he's one of the fastest painters I've ever seen in my entire life. Yeah, he'll just get it done, and he'll just do it. But he always then gets painter's remorse, which is he'll get an army, it'll be finished, and then he'll go, wish I'd spent more time on that.
Oh, you see, I don't think I get that because of what I said earlier about liking them all. I almost feel like a bit, oh, wicked, great. I've done a Imperial Guard army, fab. I never have to worry about that again.
See, I get it. I really get it. I even with my Blood Angels, which is only 1,000 points, looking back on my original intercessors, I look at them thinking, I wish I'd spent a bit more time on them.
You just can't know. You've just gotta go. It's done. And I think that no matter what you do, you could be better. You could spend more time on every single thing. So it's taken me a while, but I think you just got to kind of get over it, basically. And like for me, having failed so many army projects, I just want it done. And if it's fully painted and it's an army, there's going to be some bits that are bad, but I just want to finish something, and I'm not going to go, could have done that better. But what you were saying, Henry, about doing the cool stuff first, that's the strategy I'm trying now.
Well, you often, correct me if I'm wrong, but and to slightly move it away from army painting, that's often how you paint your display models, right? Is you will often paint the most integral focal point of the model very early on, right? Like the face or whatever, because because the whole thing rests on that, right?
Yeah, so I think like I'll paint the face because if I can't paint the face, I can't paint any of the model because it's the focus. And I just did that on Abaddon. And actually, like I was telling Rich, that what I always loved since I was 10 is building an army around a special character, not just a normal one, a special character that has loads of fluff and background. And actually everything else just comes because I want him. Like I loved Blood Angels when I was 10, so it was Dante. And I was obsessed with Azrael from Dark Angels. But I wanted Dark Angels because it had Azrael in. And then there was just stuff to go with him. And my hope is that doing Abaddon, I'm going to do a job that hopefully I really like. And I'm going to be encouraged to do the troops because, yeah, I want to see Abaddon kill all of Rich's army on its own. That's I'm going to go up to Rich's favourite model and kill him turn 1. That's the motivation. So I think Abaddon's the man to do that for me. So,
nice.
But like, yeah, I really want to actually succeed in a project, and I think doing the big important stuff first really well hopefully makes me motivate to finish the rest. So yeah, maybe a different strategy. Whereas the Lumineth doing those spearmen made me want to not paint Rhinox hide ever again. So
it's true, right?
One of the things that I think I found quite interesting is I set the goal for myself by the end of this year to have a painted playable 40k army, painted playable AOS army, which I've got both of already. That in itself, if I want a game with those two systems, I've got painted like warbands for Underworlds and stuff like that as well. But having achieved that for both systems, that gives me a little bit of leeway as to if I want to pick something up and paint it, well, then I can. Because I'm not really leaning at stuff from. I don't spend any time doing competition painting because it's not something I'm into at the moment. So for me, it's just about what I want to paint for the fun of it or what I want to play with. So having those two things done that I can play whenever I want to, I think takes a hell of a lot of the pressure off of me worrying about getting stuff done. Because it's like, well, if I want to play a game of AOS or a game of 40k, I can do that tomorrow. Yeah. So it gives me that freedom. But I distinctly remember before that when I hadn't got those two things done, used to stress me out a lot because I knew that like Andy said, I failed on so many attempts to paint armies. So much so that my undead I resurrected because it was so close to being done. Because I painted it like the 70 spearmen. Yeah, they look okay from 2 feet away on a board. They're kind of cool because there's loads of them. But I really didn't like what the job I'd done on them. But just persevering with that, resurrecting it, and like the hobby circle that I'm in pushing me to get that done because I had so much of it already. That was a big win for me because then I thought, actually, well, if I do spend a little bit more time getting it done, I'll actually then have a pretty big AOS army. And that's the game that we were playing or wanted to play it.
Yeah.
So
that's as important to me. And I think that what's really a driving force for me is that you've got 1,000 points of Blood Angels done.
Yeah.
So, like a big motivational factor in me doing Chaos. In fact, the most important one is I know when I've done 1,000 points of that, we can play a game the day I've done it. Like I can finish the last paint thing and we can play a game. So that's where the motivation is. And when I was doing Sisters, we were saying we can't play goodies on goodies. Boring. I need to play classic Chaos Mans against the good miners. And recently, me and Rich, there's been a few people that have got into the hobby in our city, and that's been very, very useful for both of us to get motivation and enjoy the hobby. And it's really changed the dynamic because now I'm again encouraged more because I'm like, well, if I do get this army done, I can play this person, this person, this person, and then we can start to build a really good hobby group. But I think without that, then I'd keep failing or probably not even want to bother. So, just going back to my point of how important it is, I think, to be around positive hobbyists and the past year and a half, it's been just on WhatsApp. Look what I've done. But I think now physical games are coming. That's just really important to sticking to it. So but everyone's been good guys, so I need to do a bad guy.
No, I like it. I like it. Well, I mean, in the end, this really did end up being almost one sort of smaller topic to do with sort of army painting. So perhaps we'll touch on getting through competition pieces in a different episode. Perhaps we'll really focus on competition painting. But I want to have a look at what the patrons have been saying. But we've largely, before we move on to what those guys said, we've largely touched really, I think, on sort of getting the inspiration side of things sorted and having the end goals in sight, a sort of what you find challenging or what you find helps with it. And largely, the boring answer is it's discipline, right? It's nearly all of this is just discipline. If you want it, find a way to make it work, or shut up and do something else. But that's not a very long podcast, or particularly helpful, right? Because if it was that simple, we'd all be doing it. But yeah, you're right. Like surrounding yourself with that positivity. Let's sort of super quickly. Let's take it down to the actual physical painting of the models and stuff. Yeah. What are a couple of things that, not stuff that hasn't worked for you, but things that have worked for you, stuff that lets you get a painting session done? What are a couple of sort of key go-tos?
So for me, if I'm looking at an army project, if I'm looking at a 1,000-point army, I know it can be daunting to do a lot of it in one go, but for me, a really good session would be if I airbrush the base color on everything all at once. Because that's going to give me almost like a little snapshot of what the army is going to look like when it's finished, which is awesome because it's super motivating. And also it means that I don't have to worry about if I've got a 2-month or 3-month gap in between picking up units to paint, that I have to worry about trying to match that base color.
Yeah.
So that, and also write everything down, even if it's the same 10 colors you use for every project you've ever done in your entire life. If it's an army recipe, write every single stage of it down 100% exactly what you do every time, because you will forget.
Or do a video for it, so you can
just record a video.
Or just record it. Yeah.
Do that a lot.
What do I do? Yeah, it's funny.
All right, come on. Let's have a quick tip off you, Andy. What's the sort of...
For me, it's a time slot every week. So, like, I think, I don't know what people think I do, but I don't paint that much. I really don't have that many hours to paint, like genuinely, and it's so important that I do, because I really want to paint. But recently, Tuesday night, it's been my sanctuary. Like, I finish work earlier than normal, and I don't do anything. If people want to do stuff, I go, no, I'm doing some painting for me. And a lot of that comes from I need to film for Patreon, which is nice because it does force me to stick stuff and get stuff done. But I think of the last 2 months, like having Tuesday, I always paint on Tuesday. And then sometimes I might not paint again till Saturday or Sunday. But that time that I've put aside, even if it's 2 to 3 hours, is really important. And I think... and I always go, right, this Tuesday session, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And I think, that's that dedicated time slot for me. And I think that people with families and stuff probably need to schedule that in as well. So
schedule it in. Yeah, great shout. Yeah. What about you, Matt?
I think be realistic. Like in what you can actually achieve in the time that you have available. If you come up with like, you can, having all these grand ideas is great and grand, but if you can't do them, then they're not going to really get anywhere, are they? So just sort of...
I need to do that.
Yeah. So what, just set smaller goals almost?
Smaller goals, small achievable goals that you can get that like dopamine buzz off of, I'm actually getting something done.
Yeah, that's the one.
I think also just on adding to that one though is having people around you that will call you out on it. So when I'm like, I'm going to paint a 4,000 point of this, have someone to be like, that's not going to work, mate.
I mean,
tell him he's dreaming.
You literally get the most shit out of anyone. Like, it got to a point where you would start a project and not tell us because you knew you'd get a telling off. So
literally. end of the week. I've done this.
Yeah. So.
Well, a couple of the patrons have got us some good suggestions as well. So Rob's talking about a little bit like you were saying, Andy, is sort of scheduling him. So he sort of says, I'll try and get 45 minutes in each night or whatever.
Yeah.
But one of the things he's mentioned about is having like a good audio book. So like he's looking forward to getting to that hobby session, because not only is he getting some hobby done, he's also listening to something he's enjoying. So I quite like that as well. And I think we I know you don't. We talked about music a while ago, but I think music for me, but also that's slightly different, isn't it, to the idea of sticking some music on or sticking a show on in the background that you've watched 1,000 times as a sort of company, I guess, more than anything. What Rob's actually saying there is you've almost got two reasons to want to get to your desk. And I know I've been doing that with sort of generally Warhammer books, stuff that don't necessarily want to sit and read when in my reading time, but I would quite like to know the story. And that's quite a nice way of keeping me at the desk for a little while. So yeah, getting a decent audio book, getting something like that on. Adam's talking about realistic deadlines, and sort of is a good motivator. I think that's he's taken a year to get his recent Titan he's painted done, but he said that at the start, and he's chill with that, so he's not feeling that pressure, because he's given himself that realistic sort of time frame in which to do it.
Nice.
One other physical one, and this is how I imagine Matt's work area is kind of Dexter like, but Rich is saying that sort of I think Rich and Adam are saying is if at all possible, have your hobby area sort of tidy and ready to go.
Nice place to be, right?
Yeah. So if you get, for whatever reason, you get 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, you could literally just walk in and bang some paint on something. You haven't got to spend that time sorting, thinking, doing all the rest of it. You're just good to go. That plays into the one I would suggest, which is something that's worked really well for me, is just start painting. If after 5 minutes I'm hating it, then I'll fuck off and I'll do something else. But 9 times out of 10, if I get that 5 minutes in, I'll get half hour, an hour or whatever in, for doing it. And I think the vast majority of us, getting more than an hour to hobby is in one go doesn't really happen. The older we all get, the more responsibilities people have. A hobby, a full hobby day is not something most people get anymore. And that's okay, right? So you just sort of work around it. I wanted to read Adam's one in full, because I actually thought he had a load of really, really good points. There's loads of Adams as well. So this is Adam, you wrote it. Number of little tricks that helps him a lot. Breaking different projects into monthly focus. So 1 month he works on 40k, the next he'll work on AOS, the next he'll work on Lord of the Rings, and then he goes back to 40k, AOS, Lord of the Rings, 40k, AOS, Lord of the Rings, or just multiple projects. So I guess the idea behind that is that you get stuff done and you then have a long enough gap so you get excited about going back to it.
Like me and my Lumineth.
Right. But that would work if you paint a Lumineth model in the next month, right? Otherwise it will be more like,
am I allowed to do a tutorial on it again?
You find something. You'll find something to do on it. Don't worry. Another tip is resisting the hype train. Have a word with yourself, Adam. Nonsense. No one can do that. The hype train is out of control. Talking about self-control and discipline here. Doesn't exist. One final trick is knowing how you like to paint. I think this is really cool. So if you hate batch painting, don't do it. Like do a model at a time. It won't be optimal, but you will be getting models finished. Even though you're getting them finished slower, you're getting them finished and you're enjoying yourself. So therefore you might finish it, right? But this is it, right? It's an interesting take, right? Because I end up with, within 1 week I end up with 40 Marines that are airbrushed and blacked out details, and then 6 months later they're in the same condition.
Yeah. Or
do I end up, 1 week I get one Marine painted? It's interesting. I think that is cool. Like there's no right or wrong way, is there? And I think that's something we find more and more with painting and hobbing is there's a lot of people out there who will try and tell you this is the way to do it, when actually what they mean is this is the way I do it.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's, you know, be chill about it. You know, there's no.
Do you think to be successful in my chaos project, maybe I should aim them all for consistency and then do individuals? Is that what you're saying?
Nah, you'll be fine with it. I've got a good feeling about this one, mate.
That's what I need, positivity.
You'll be fine.
I think also, like with the things like Kill Team coming up, yeah, it's a really good way of scratching an itch. So like instead of going, I'd love a Black Templars army with like 50 Marines and vehicles and stuff. So well, actually, a Kill Team's 5 Primaris Marines or whatever it is. Like that's such a good option now. I think
completely agree. Yeah, that goes way back to what I was saying earlier about if I'm painting armies now, they are getting painted for gaming with.
Yeah.
So for me, but that doesn't mean I don't still want to paint high level army projects. Does that make sense? I do not want to paint display or competition models at the moment. I just don't have that in me. But equally, I don't just want to paint what are, for my level of ability, suboptimal models. Like suboptimal paint jobs. I need something to enjoy and be proud of and all the rest of it. And that's where exactly what you're saying there, Rich. That's where your skirmish games, whatever scale they are, that's where your skirmish games come in. You know, and there's so many good ones. GW obviously has a bunch, but it's a brilliant way as well to experience other manufacturers. You know, they almost certainly another manufacturer's never going to have the same quality and breadth of models that Games Workshop does. But that's okay, right?
Yes.
If you only need 10 models to play the game with,
it's fine.
Wicked.
Or even if like it could just be rule sets like Planet 28, things like that, have a great rule set that you can implement any model from any range into.
So I think skirmish is definitely becoming, and a lot of board games now, it seems we seem to have this hybrid, don't we, of board game / miniatures game. You know, the playing pieces now are being sculpted by some of the best sculptors in the industry and stuff. So you know, that's quite another nice sort of self-contained sort of project where you can. Although I don't know, would I want to push myself on painting those when I know they're going to get handled? Oh
yeah.
You know,
if you do like when I'm doing like Underworld's Warband, I did one and I really spent some time on it. It was amazing having that painted against, like when me and Andy were playing his Skaith against my goblins on wolves. It looked amazing.
Yeah. Let's see what's happening. I assume this is Mike in the chat, possibly talking from his work account. How often do you get partway through a project, be that a competition piece, a gaming piece, whatever, and chin it off because you're not happy with it? Well, behind this blind, I have several Tupperware boxes full of those models, just waiting for the buyer strip. Pretty sure, Rich, you have to buy an entire shed, didn't you, to deal with?
Yeah.
Failed projects.
Even genuinely realistically, 50% of what I do gets chinned off.
Want to give you a hug, mate?
Well, so it does mean I have some quite nice little display pieces. So I always do random marine chapters. I've bought a little plinth for the 10 different like chapter or Legion Marines that are all finished that I'm going to put on a little plinth and just have butterfly on a little plaque.
They do look fantastic, and actually, do you know what? They're all brilliant, and they look really nice. They look really nice together. So fair play.
Cheers, mind.
Last Patreon comment I wanted to talk about was by Mitchell, and this one resonates with me a lot, and this is what's made me so passionate about helping people learn different tools for army painting. You know, so they can pick what works for them. His biggest challenge is being like hyper focused. So he's like, each mini I paint, I feel I have to put in 110% effort and have to make it incredible, even if it's not a particularly exciting model. And I suppose that goes back to what you're saying, Matt, about realistic goals and stuff, right?
Yeah. Separate things, right? So like for me, at the moment, I want an army done, and then I want to remember the competitions are coming, but have different styles of things. And this project I'm going to be chill on, and then occasionally It's nice to be unchill and strive for your best, but sometimes just don't do that.
I feel like a hell of a lot of that comes from not specifically you, Andy, just what Mitchell says. A hell of a lot of it comes from the way that we're expected to present and share our miniatures now online, right? And therefore you're getting judged. You're getting judged by. You're putting it out there to be judged by potentially untold amounts of people, right?
Yeah.
And I find it like I've never been particularly fussed about a personal hobby account in that sense. Like I love work, don't get me wrong, we've chosen to put ourselves out there and do all the rest of it, but I don't really like when I finish painting a model, my first place to go and share it is in my messenger group or WhatsApp group or whatever with my mates. It's not to post it online. But I think there is that there for a huge majority of people, is that pressure. And I do wonder sometimes, like, you know, as people, you need to post more, but I'll post a model up and I'll go, why do I want to post this model? Because I'm not demonstrating that I've painted something to the best of my ability. Is this stranger going to judge me negatively on a piece of work which isn't my best? And of course you shouldn't give a fuck what anyone else thinks about it, but it's there. There's no getting away from the fact that if you're going to use the internet as a way to share your models, that must be having an impact on people, right? And I think you see it a lot when people always write that slightly apologetic thing underneath when they'll post a model up. You know, they'll be overly self-deprecating about it because I think they're worried about people thinking, oh, well, that's not as good as the last thing he did, move on. Whereas if you take those models and share them with your mates at your hobby night or at your game night or whatever, they're always going to be positive about it. They're always going to be happy to see that you've painted something, you know. And it's one of those things that when we've run painting competitions, and another Adam in the chat asked when the next one is. We'll have MPO news soon, Adam. Is people say, oh, I'm not going to win at this competition. That shouldn't stop you going and entering, right? Because of what that can, not just what it can do for your own personal painting progress, but also what it brings to that community. You know, I might see a model painted far worse than I can paint right now. I'm not being a dickhead about that. You know, everyone's got people are better and people are worse than them. But there might be an idea on that model that's really cool and inspires me to go off and do something more. Yeah. So sorry, this has got a little bit rambly, but it goes back to what Mitchell says. It's, you know, that feeling of having to put 110% effort into every model. You just don't, do you? Nah. Like it's and if that's the way you are, Mitch, well, maybe you have to look at what one of the Adams, many Adams was saying in one of his comments, was understand that about yourself and perhaps just start only painting really good models. You know, if you've got to paint 20 models to be in a unit, maybe that's just not the right project. Maybe that's not the right army for you to enjoy your hobby with. I think you see it, don't you? You know, old forums you get, oh, what army should I play? And people would be like, oh, what's the background you like? Or what do you want to do this? Maybe a lot more of it should be about, you know, what are you like as a, you know, as a hobbyist? What are you like as a painter? What do you like painting? You know, what do you like seeing on the table?
Analysis before you do any project.
Maybe that's the big part.
You need a full psychological analysis. You need Space Marines.
Yeah.
It's all about like balance, you know. You've got to, like you said, if you go, right, I'm going to paint a 4,000 point Krieg army to the best of my possible ability, all Golden Demon Slayer. Well, you're not, because you're going to be painting 200 infantry, you know, and maybe that's not realistic. Or if you're like, okay, I want to paint something to a much higher standard, it's like, okay, that's fine. It just needs to be a bit smaller. So like my orcs are painted to a way higher standard than I would ever normally suggest to anyone for doing an army. But I'll keep it at 1K. It gets to 1K, it's done. Do something else. But where you've got like undead, paint 4,000 points of them because it takes 10 minutes.
John's just saying in the chat that he's saying, I think sharing of work is really important, especially for those of us without local hobby groups to be a part of. I 100% agree, John. I certainly wasn't saying don't share it on. You know, the overwhelming impact of social media on our hobby has been positive, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And this was very specifically sort of what I was talking about, was this perhaps this idea of valuing your own work based on what many random people might say about it. Sometimes that's going to be demotivating.
Yeah, you know? Especially if it's a model that you really like. and you've spent time on and you really enjoy it, and then you post it and it doesn't get as much of a positive response as maybe other things that you've posted, it can be quite disheartening.
Yeah, exactly. It can be demotivating, right? And that's a shame. That is I guess a byproduct of the way, it's gone. But yeah, and I think it'll always just do this when it'll contract and expand, and and it's in the early days it was forums. That's how we shared stuff. Then it became Facebook. Then we got Twitter and Instagram. Now we've got TikTok. There's a lot of hobby going on there. Discord. And maybe it's going to shrink back down again. And so I think it's just again, it's surround yourself with the group or the group of people that keep you moving forwards, keep you happy, keep you enjoying the hobby. Nice. And that's not just some hippie, comment. It works. That's how you get shit done, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's how we've managed to get stuff done.
Definitely.
It always comes back to that same couple of people I've known for donkeys. If Trev thinks it's cool, fine by me. Job done, that type of thing. But I'm just conscious of the time, guys, so I want us to.
That was a nice closing sentence, Stilo.
It's always a risk in it, this topic, mate, that you end up sounding a bit fucking holier than thou, and I know that, like, we don't know shit, but we've painted quite a lot of models between us.
We're putting our hands up and saying we're awful at
it. I'm the worst.
Yeah.
So we're saying why and discussing. So it's funny.
Mike's like, I get more likes for something that's converted than plastic than I do when it's painted. Sometimes it's a bit hard. Absolutely, Mike. Yeah. Nothing like posting a work in progress Space Marine conversion that gets 10 times as many likes as your developed from the ground up model that you've worked on for 2 years and spent thousands of pounds on.
You got to sacrifice something to the algorithm for that.
That's it, right? Right, let's move on to the last segment, I think, if you don't mind, guys. Close that one out. So close out the show as normal. I'm going to take a look at what the paint cultists have been up to. We've got a hashtag paint cultists. Follow it. It's on all the social media, but it's largely on Instagram. Give that tag a follow if you want to see a huge breadth of hobby work. You've got lots of different styles, lots of different abilities, lots of different game systems. You've got busts, you've got large scale, you've got small scale. It's a really fun way of finding new painters, new models, and that type of thing. And all we do on the show is pick a handful every show. We just have a little natter about them and sort of why they've caught our eye. The other guys don't know what ones I pick, and we'll just throw them up. So what you got first, Matt? Nice.
Wow.
Infinity. So what we were talking about, skirmish games. I know Infinity has tickled mine and Andy's pickles for a long time. And they've just released their first plastic model, not this one. Does this finally mean we might get plastic and resin Infinity models?
Because too late. And it looks really bad quality, to be honest. I don't want to be negative.
The plastic one, it does look a bit.
I saw, and I'm like, come on, guys. So I love Infinity. What the hell?
And this is why we love Infinity, because it's just badass models like this.
That's great.
It's it's just, I just thought it was really, really cool. I like the fact there's so many colours on it.
Colour, right?
Like, it is like it's doing the phase thing, isn't it, on its armour. So yeah, nice one, James at Hobbycraft and Beyond. I wonder if that's Hobbycraft as in the.
Do you reckon that's his shop, Hobbycraft and Beyond?
West UK. Right, what's that next, Matt?
Well,
this is rad. So this account had posted quite a lot of stuff over the last few weeks. A real nice variety of things. And I don't know whether they're things to go in this or not. But as I understand it, this is done as like a bookend type thing.
No way.
But to sort of sit in the middle of your books on your bookshelf and just be like a little vignette, a little scene.
Yeah. That's cool.
But
between it.
It's just lovely. If that is what it's for, if I've understood it correctly, I'd love to see that bookshelf. I think it'd be really cool. And I'm gearing myself up to do a lot of scenery painting over the next 12 months. So seeing some nicely executed like this is always good.
Yeah.
So yeah, just it's definitely the start of a new level, isn't it? When you walk through that door.
Yeah.
That's
Checkpoint.
Yeah, press E.
Remember
you'd have to have a pretty impressive bookshelf cabinet and also books. You couldn't put like Mary Berry's Cakes book next to it, could you?
You would though.
Don't know, maybe a juxtaposition could work.
Yeah.
I mean, you look like you're sat right in the next, 101 things to do with lentils or whatever right now.
True. Yeah. Smallholders Guides to Christmas.
Farmers Weekly.
Love you, Rich. What's the next slide, Matt? Oh, look at this beauty.
Wow.
This is an old Chaos Familiar model.
Really?
There's, if you look back in the 90s, might even be late 80s, but back around that time, they did so many of these teeny tiny little Chaos Familiars. And they're still characterful sculpts. I don't know the exact date on this one.
Like the stab, isn't it?
It is a bit like Stabgrot, right? And it's lovely. Nice little bit of NMM, just cute. As you'll know if you watch the show, I am a sucker for sort of critter type things. So this does me. But as I say, yeah, go and check them out on the 1989. Thank you, Martin. It's the oldest kit Games Workshop still sells.
Seriously?
They still sell that?
There we go. Yeah, you get a little pack of familiars still.
Really?
Wow.
Go check them out. Again, This is why hashtag Paint Cultists is so good. See, learning. Every day's a school day. What we got up next? Matt, I think there's a couple more.
There are.
Whoa.
Got to have a Space Marine in, right?
Fuck yeah.
And it's Azrael. It must be Azrael,
He's been
right?
turned to chaos.
Hey,
You what?
say that.
Oh, is this one of them? No, it's not, is it? It's not. That's just OSL off the plasma.
Matt's trying to be funny, saying
okay.
Paint the
Okay.
Chow-mans, but they're good.
At least you didn't bite Andy.
No, I thought he might have been one of those. Have you seen the Alfarius Omega thing that's been going on the last 6 months or so?
Yeah.
Where they sort of paint those phased Alpha Legion models, don't they?
Half and half.
Sweet banner.
But it's just a sweet model. I mean, any Azrael gets a tick. But it's nice. I've not seen someone do it based off this sort of base model.
It's like
I actually think it works really well.
Primaris scale banner for a Primaris scale Marine.
Yeah,
bring back those backpack
that's it.
Banners.
Bring back flags. Definitely.
God, yeah.
Is it off the bike? Is it off the Deathwing bike?
Good shout.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe so. And it's a Mephiston, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Painting's really good though. Like the purple lightning's really cool, and the little gold ball is really nice. It's really
nice composition as well, isn't it? They made
very good.
I think this would look more striking on a black background, just because of that composition.
Cheating, Henry.
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about it from a composition point of view, not from let's look at the painting. That's wicked. He's done the right thing. He's not fanning around with it. But I do feel like if you saw this on a black, or one of them, what's them ones Rich Gray often uses, the weird like smoky ones.
He airbrushes them, I think.
Just give it a bit of bit of arty-farty. I think it'd look really it deserves it. It's a cool
Great
model.
pick, Stilo.
And I think got one more. Have we, Matt? We got one more.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Literally, almost like to prove your point. How much better does that look on a darker background?
Oh, look, we could talk about backgrounds and photos in another episode. Like me and Andy have always said, black backgrounds are cheating, but there is a place for them. And I use them a lot. But anyway, that's a different discussion. Partly, I love the Skaven models when they got the remake.
Yeah,
I love this model in particular. It was the first ever Age of Sigmar paint job I did. I did this the weekend Age of Sigmar released. I painted it very similarly to this, which is why it struck me when I did it. I think it's probably the last time I did OSL as well.
You did it the other day, you liar.
And I just think, it's just lovely. Like, it's no other reason. I just think it's a spot on paint job for the model.
Yeah.
And I hope that person's really chuffed with it.
Yeah, it should be. It's great.
I'd love it if that was sat on my shelf. Right.
I really like Skaven with OSL. I like
it works for them, right?
Stone, right? Super fluffy. It's like
Great army.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And that model as well. I remember I was Island of Blood. That was the box.
Yeah.
I remember buying that box. First thing I built out of the box was that model.
Oh yeah, that's like a starter kit one.
Yeah. You got him and the one giving it the most muscular.
Isles versus Skaven.
I mean, I forget there was another army in that box, to be honest.
Colin asking in the chat, is a black background cheating? Well, we'll have to address that question on a future
joke. It's a joke,
episode,
but yes.
Right, is that it for slides, Matt?
There's one more.
There's one more. I'm terrible at counting.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, and this I'm trying to remember what the account said about it, but it was something along the lines of he will do a random mini like this to practice stuff on, so it like won't be like a typical miniature. So you might print something or buy something that's weird, just have a play around with different techniques.
That's super cool.
And I quite like that because again, it's a little self-contained thing. There's no temptation to do anything more with it. And I just thought it was kind of, pretty metal.
Brutal.
Like I need to find the holy water.
Okay, just I mean, just needs to go on a t-shirt for some band, definitely.
Yeah. Should be
really
your
nice.
like Cult of Paint Christmas card.
That's it, right? But I also pick these generally when I flick through. I'm pretty random with it. If it sparks my interest, I'll click it and I'll send it through to Matt. But one of the things I wanted to do with these 5 was to just illustrate the breadth of minis you might see. If you follow in that tag, I could obviously fill it with Space Marines. No
We've
problem.
already done that.
Yeah, but there's exactly. Go back and watch the Space Marine episode. But there's there's a ton of great stuff on there, and there's more and more going up each week. So yeah, give it a follow. Now that is it for slides, isn't it, Matt?
It is, yes.
Nice one. So come to the end. Thanks very much for sticking with us, everyone. I know we've gone on a little bit there. I didn't really know how long that episode would go. We just sort of wound us up and see what we could get chatting about. So I hope you managed to glean a couple of little helpful things from that. If not, what are you still doing listening? But you're welcome. I know I certainly got a few things jotted down. I was particularly impressed by some of the Patreon chat in there. So speaking of Patreon, if you do want to reach out to us at all, we're on all the usual platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, all the rest of it. If you want to support us, hit our Patreon, hit the like button, comment, all the rest of it. You know what the deal is with all that sort of stuff. Thanks ever so much for the chat tonight. It's been really nice having all of you in there, and there's a lot of really useful comments going on there, and I hope you guys are finding we're starting to get a little community going now. What, we 14 episodes in or something now, 15 episodes in? Hopefully, it's a nice little crew starting to form, and we really do appreciate you all being on there. Thanks to you 3 being on as ever. Wonderful. Let's not leave it 3 weeks. Let's try and get the next one out a little bit quicker than that. And as ever, thanks to all you guys for watching, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching it back later. And we will see you in a couple of weeks.
Bye.
Bye.